Okay. Sure. I've opened the public hearing, but I think this would constitute comments, right? And we're not going to time this one. We do have, by the way, we were presented with a copy of the amended agreement. So we have seen that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I am Cheryl Rios. I'm the executive director for CC Patch, who's leading the way in the rehabilitation.
Have you turned on your green?
Of the, yeah. How's that? Okay, this is my first time. Okay, let me start over. As I said, I am Cheryl Rios. I'm the executive director for CC Patch. We are leading the way in the rehabilitation of the Ritz Theater. I have brought along a colleague of mine. We have hired a capital campaign counsel, Susan Palmer, who she'll be able to answer some follow-up questions that you may have as we move forward. So one of the visions that we have with CC Patch is bringing back to life the theater. CC Patch opened in 1929, just before the Depression, survived through the Depression, and eventually closed in 1989. During that time, there were different kinds of groups that went in to try to keep the theater alive, and eventually with downtown depleting of businesses and the South Side expanding, the Ritz Theater did close down. It was a sad thing because we look back at historic theaters and what they can bring to a community. And one of the greatest things is Monica Sawyer was able to grab a hold of the Ritz Theater and be able to create this vision to move forward in rehabilitating the theater. So one of the ideas we're having and what we will do is bring the theater back to the 1930s era vibe. It will be a multi-purpose venue with music, theater, dance. There'll be touring shows from across the nation. One of the great things that just happened with Corpus Christi is we were designated as a music-friendly city by the Music Office of the state of Texas. That actually includes us into a roster that will put us on a line for entertainers to come down into Corpus Christi and not just stop in San Antonio, Austin, Houston, Dallas, but will actually be part of that touring roster, which is exciting because as you know, we are needing more things here in Corpus Christi to do. We need that for retention for our community, and we also need it for tourism, for people to come and have these exciting things to engage in when they come to our city. It creates interest in our city, it develops community impact, and you can move forward to the vision. I'll try to say next slide. Yes. So one of the things that we will incorporate, because we are a nonprofit, is K through 12 arts education programming, along with adults and senior art education. We want to eventually have in-house programming, but before we ever open the doors, we are creating programming that will reach into our communities, such as shelters, Central Library, CCISD, and other organizations that are making a positive impact. In my prior career with Case-Based Contemporary, we were able to partner with other organizations, and it really created a sense of community. It drove these different areas that didn't have accessibility to the arts to have that ability to experience, number one, contemporary art, and also being able to engage in creating art. So one of the things that we will do is create programming. I do have someone here today, Beth Goldson. She's an operatic singer. She's trained that will be helping create programming for us to do outreach first and then in-house operatic programming, which is very exciting. One of the things I want to talk about is our unique where we sit. We sit centrally in downtown. And yes, I know we have Harbor Playhouse and Salina We have American Bank Center, but we're different. We are a vintage theater. We are something that, typically we see old buildings being destroyed and scraped, but one of the things that we do have are people go and they look for theaters such as ours to have that experience. And what we will have is a state-of-the-art theater that is enabling that. The seating at Harbor Playhouse seats 454 people. Selena has 2,500 people. American Bank Center seats 5,000 and will seat 1,000. Perfect. Okay. We're here today because we were offered a grant from the Texas Historical Commission of a $230,000 reimbursement grant. That came from a Harvey grant that was designated for damage that was caused outside on the exterior, which is outlined in our proposal for this project. With this, by the city backing us and showing the leadership for our community, this shows confidence in our project and also will leverage that money so we can be reimbursed for the $230,000 from Texas Historical Commission and reinvest it into our building. In the meantime, we will be leading a capital campaign fundraiser. We have that going on right now. We have a Friends of the Ritz campaign that we are doing. That actually ends January 31st. The mayor is a proponent of it. We call it the Mayor's Challenge, which is exciting. Once that is over, we will be working with our capital campaign counselor, Susan Palmer, to create an analysis and to move forward on what our community needs, what they want to see happen in the theater, and how we're going to do that. And the great thing about Susan is that her experience comes from years and years of, number one, an executive director as a theater, but also a fundraiser that raises millions of dollars across the United States for these theaters to open up in small communities, large communities, and bringing back to life old theaters. So moving forward, next one. Our capital Ritz, the rehab team, I'll list them out. We've heard about them before, but capital campaign strategist is Susan Palmer of Palmer Westport Group. Our architect is out of Washington, D.C. They're OTJ Architects. They have a phenomenal team. They are up at the level of the best in the United States. We found them from the League of Historic American Theaters. We really relied on them to help us find the professionals that know exactly what they're doing. We don't want to step into this project not knowing what we're doing. We know it's a big project. We know it's going to take a lot of money, and we are getting the arsenal in order to be able to do that and to complete our project. OTJ actually was here to present last June. They'll be back again, and when they do come back, we'll have a presentation for them as well. We will be working with a structural engineer out of San Antonio, Lundy Frankie, theater planner Schuler Shook, best of the best, Cleary Zimmerman Engineers, best of the best, and of course Evergreen Architectural, based out of New York City, that focuses on plaster repair and decorative painting. So they were here a few months ago doing a plaster paint analysis, and we got to see the original colors of the Ritz Theater on the interior. Phenomenal. When you walk in right now, you see like these very contrasting, harsh colors of maroon and cream. Back in the day, you had filigree, kind of like this really pretty patina happening on some of the embellishments. All of the decorative work inside is a plaster. It's not wood carving, it's not acrylic or anything like that. That is handmade plaster finishes that they specialize in and rehabilitating. We'll move forward. So this is an example of the Plaza Theater out of El Paso, Texas. Scott Dunn was the architect originally of this theater, same architect as the Ritz Theater, which is pretty exciting to know. Monica claimed them as our sister theater because it is an atmospheric theater. It's about the same footprint as what we have. This is pretty much what the Ritz Theater will look like on the inside. If you've been to the Majestic Theater in San Antonio, you'll see that that is the same vibe, same interior aesthetic that we will have in the Ritz Theater, except of course they have 3,500 seats and we have 1,000 seats. So we're excited about actually going out to visit. I want to hear about their story and their fundraising journey. It was a 20-year process, and just in the last, well, actually it was started in 1979. They were able to start working on it then, and then 20 years ago was actually opened up to the public. So it is an in-service theater. The community is thriving with it, and that's what I am excited to have come to downtown Corpus Christi. So one of the standards that we are looking at is the rehabilitation process. There are different kinds of preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, reconstruction. Working with the Texas Historic Commission, they have guidelines that we have to follow. We can't just go in and say, oh, we're gonna tear this out, we're gonna do this, we're gonna knock out walls. We can't do that. We have to follow guidelines that they say and are approved, so we stay with historic preservation and their guidelines to what they have in mind in keeping a historic building historic. Next one. So one of the things we qualify for, since we have been nominated to be an historic site federally, we are now have the ability to file for historic tax credits federally and statewide. And so one of the things that we can do a follow-up question with Susan, she can explain it a little bit more in detail because it becomes a little confusing. But it's exciting that we have that ability to engage in this kind of financing to help us move forward with our project. Next slide. So our immediate funding is $230,000, and as I said, it's a matching grant. You did mention what the parameters and the scope of the work is. So it's embedded steel repairs, patch and seal. It's all listed out in our contract and agreement. If anybody would like to know more about it, it's a little dry. It's a little more than what I have expertise on, but I do know that there's a lot of weatherproofing that we have to do before we can ever get construction going inside. We have to have the moisture out. Next slide. So one of the things we can answer more after the presentation is we've provided handouts. This is just a summary. We can go to this pro forma, actually. A summary of a pro forma that we have. Y'all have the long form, and Susan will be able to explain it a little bit more. And as you can see, there is a potential to generate a modest operating budget, which is exciting to know that we have someone that's specialized in this, understands what we're looking for, and how we're going to make those funds. One of the things that we're looking for is, number one, we'll see is the economic impact, naming ops sources that we will have the opportunity for the community to engage in. That's in our sources and uses brochure that you have. And then there's a sample operating budget that you can see that we have. So I want to keep that presentation short because it can be dry, and I want to open the floor up for questions if you have them. And I would like Susan to join me up here to be able to help me with that. And I would like to say thank you for the opportunity for presenting.
Thank you. The only thing I would ask is if you could get that copy of that presentation and we could include it up with our minutes and send it out to the board so we have it, because it's a great presentation. So
I'd also like to say that we brought a 3D model of what we're envisioning for the building. So if you'd like to take a look at it, I would love for you to see it, although I would like for no one to take pictures. We want to be able to present it at a time where we can just kind of do a grand presentation.
there are two parts to it, right?
There are two parts. This one is one vision. I do have the other one. It's a little bit more angular. I can bring out if you'd like to see it.
But one is the old theater, and then the second part is what you're,
So this is
hopefully
the original
one day,
theater. And then we have an addition that we're envisioning happening that would be on this side covering the parking lot, and that would be a multi-use building. So we'll have arts education, admin. There'll be a secondary theater that we're envisioning happening called a black box theater that would seat about 150 people. It's a conversion space, so we could use it for events, we could use it for concerts, we can use circling around for theater. There's all sorts of opportunity for here. Up here is an observation deck that can also be used for rentals, and we also have on the main area ADA compliant elevators and bathrooms, which we are deficient in the main building. This has 2 floors. Each floor has approximately, let's see, the men's has 1 stall, 2 urinals, and then 3 toilets in the female bathroom, and then same on the upper level. That is not enough for 1,000 people. And to be able to come in here and maneuver and make what we want to happen in here, it's really impossible to bring it up to code and to make it accessible for ADA and also to accommodate 1,000 people. Back in the day, they didn't think about that, but we are now.
but at this point, what this money is going for
Strictly
is
for the
to
historic.
just weatherize the
Yes,
existing.
ma'am,
Yeah.
and it's strictly for the scope of the work that we've
Okay,
included.
does anybody have any questions? Cheryl, good presentation. I'm gonna, certainly we want y'all to speak. We know y'all have come here. I would say if you're on the top of the mountain, you might have nowhere to go but down. So, but if anybody would like to talk, I'd be happy to have them come forward, and we need you to state your name and for the record.
Don't be
And
shy.
if you just want to say, I agree. We'll be happy with that.
And for the record, Leah, this is opening the public hearing.
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought I did that in the beginning. I am opening the public hearing, yes.
So I had a speech and it was about 7 minutes, but now I've heard it needs to not be that.
Well, it's up to you, but.
I was back then, I cut it down to about 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'm Kristen Perry Henderson. This space is really important to me. I know that it's important to everyone here because I know you care about the city. Arts is so important to kids, but specifically kids that don't get the opportunity that some of our own kids get. There are a lot of kids that are just blocks from where the Ritz is at, and I know that these women behind me and Cheryl, we promise to make sure that the theater is available to them. We promise to make sure that they can go there and have an experience and be able to see the theater, see concerts, go to young youth TEDx talks and go to fun lectures and have exciting experiences. There's a lot of great things for children, especially when it comes to the arts. Their math scores increase, their science tests go up, their reading and their writing improves. You can ask every single teacher anytime that they involve and implement drama into their teaching, they see a huge improvement. But I think y'all probably might care a little bit more about the economics of it, and so I'll probably just end with this. Development comes where art is. So people don't go to Houston and San Antonio and Dallas because of just the name. They go there because there's entertainment there. They go there because the arts. Y'all have done a phenomenal job. The Downtown Management District has done a great job of putting beautiful art on buildings. Y'all, bravo. However, it's on the outside. I'd love for y'all to fix what's on the inside of the Ritz. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Kristen.
Of course.
And I do want to say, from my point of view, the idea of some public access, free access is always important to us. We don't want to see, we've had projects where the public couldn't really, interact with something, and so that's a great concept.
Yes.
Monica?
Hello, can you hear me? I'm Monica Sawyer, and I'm founder of Corpus Christi Patch. Thank you for having us today. I have a couple of key points I just want to communicate, and that is that since 2006, every single consultant that the city has hired to come up with a plan of what to do with our downtown or what to do with our bayfront has included the Ritz Theater as a viable source of economic development and economic impact for the city. Every single consultant has said, restore the Ritz, make this happen, and you will see progress from it. So consider that. And also, I know there's a lot of hesitation and doubt and concern that has been, with this project for so many years. But what's happened, what's different about right now is that we have some incredible support from the state, from the governor's office, and we also have Cheryl was a major milestone for us, getting someone full-time. We've never had anyone full-time before. And then also our pro team. So we have hired the best in the country, and that is not an exaggeration. And so if ever there was a time to have confidence in this project, it's right now, because there are no better people for this project. And they have all been hired and are ready to go, and we're ready to pull the trigger. So the time is now. We've got the support of the Texas Historical Commission, and really a lot of people, a lot of big donors are waiting to see what the city is doing. And we've known that for over 2 decades, almost, or a little over a decade, where funders said, well, we're waiting to see what the city's gonna do. is the city going to support you? And even some different consultants along over the years have said, if you don't have the city supporting you in a big way, then it's going to be really hard to get the big funders. So this funding opportunity is just one of the first. Well, we had the TERS, which is amazing, but this is a bigger deal than the TERS. It's a bigger amount, and it's a signal to the rest of the community that the city's ready to support this project now, and we have all the right people in place. So I'm just so grateful for all the support we have here and all the pros we have involved, and you're gonna see some amazing things happen. And so we're really excited that you're considering this project and for future funding as well, and thank you very much.
It's been a labor of love for you.
Yeah, excuse me.
Glasses here. Good afternoon. My name is Jane Dare Haas. I reside at 521 Pierman Place in Corpus Christi, Texas. And today I'd like to speak to you on behalf of the Ritz Theater. My interests are both professional and personal. Until recently, I spent nearly 20 years in the business of not-for-profit organizational management, from Halo Flight and the American Heart Association to Spawn Wellness Services and then CCSU. I recognize the countless contributions business and industry provide to not-for-profit endeavor in our city, and I applaud their recognition of the intrinsic value doing so brings to our entire community. Personally, I'm a student of the arts. I have a bachelor's in fine arts in theater and a master's in communication. I am an actor and a 3-time award winner in the Corpus Christi 7-Day Film Festival. I serve on the Corpus Christi Film Commission's advisory board and know empirically that the support of the Ritz Theater renovation will have far-reaching benefits, including educationally, socially, and economically. Recently, Americans for the Arts released Arts and Economic Prosperity #6, an economic and social impact study of the nation's nonprofit arts and cultural industry. Building on its 30-year legacy as the largest and most inclusive study of its kind, this study provides detailed findings on 373 regions of the United States, all 50 states, including Puerto Rico, ranging in populations from 4,000 to 4 million, and representing rural, suburban, and urban communities. From their study findings in 2022, nonprofit arts and cultural organizations and their audiences generated $151.7 billion in economic activity. 73.3% of 73.3 billion, that percentage, in spending by the organizations themselves, which leveraged an additional 78.4 billion in event-related spending by their audiences. The impact of this economic activity is, needless to say, far-reaching, supporting 2.6 billion jobs, generating 29.1 billion in tax revenue, providing 101 billion in personal income to residents. Allow me for just a brief moment to reference my personal reasons for being in front of you today. As an actor, I can see an opportunity for festivals such as South by Southwest or our own CC7 Day, growing and prospering in an environment like the vision for the Ritz Theater, attracting film professionals from all across Texas, across the nation, and perhaps even the world. As an actor and a charter company member at Playhouse on the Square in Memphis, Tennessee, my time is up. I want to thank you for your support locally of the arts in Corpus Christi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bethany Goldson. I was briefly mentioned by Cheryl in her presentation, and we've been talking closely about how we can go ahead and get started on education with the Ritz. Really quickly, I'll introduce myself. I am a local opera performer and music educator and theater professional. I do a lot at Harvard Playhouse, and am actually working on programming there too for children's theater as well. And I'll go ahead and make a statement. I'm not on the board of Harbor Playhouse, however, my mother is, and I'm very close friends with all of the members there on the board. And we view the Ritz as a close friend and collaborator and are very excited about this project and to share arts with downtown Corpus Christi, because Harbor Playhouse is limited on space. We do very large productions. There's only so much we can do. And the more education we have here in Corpus Christi, the more the culture is built and the more ticket sales that we can all profit from. I currently run my own voice studio and am really focusing on music education in the city, because growing up, I did not have the education that I needed to go and really have a great start in music education. I had to fight for it, and I struggled very hard. But now I'm grateful for that struggle, because with COVID, it brought me back home, and it's been a wonderful opportunity because I feel like I'm able to give what I have learned to my students here in Corpus Christi and the theater community, and they are able to benefit from that. And I have students that have gone on to other college programs and have won international music competitions, and I just wish that that was something I had, and it's a great gift to give that back. So I plan to do that with the Ritz, and I have proposed a summer vocal program that we hope to do for children under the age of 18, and are working on what that would look like. And I also see a huge opportunity to have a resident opera company in this theater. That is so beautiful. And I recently brought some students to San Antonio Opera. That hall was filled with children and with students who were engaged 1,000% of the time. It's easy to think that an art form such as opera and older theater is dead, but I guarantee you it is absolutely not. And Corpus has no idea what it's missing. And we have so much talent in this town that I continue to discover and work with, and it's such a pleasure. As much as I would love to open an opera company tomorrow and get this started and do it right now, I realize as CC Patch is working very hard on getting the theater ready to open its doors, which will be a long journey, there's nothing stopping us from education to prepare for those doors to open. Because if you open a new theater and go like, we're doing this cool artistic thing without the education, then you don't have the foundation to get that support that you need with the doors open. So that's the part that I see myself playing and that I'm very passionate with. And my specialty is voice, so that's what I'm starting with. But I really look forward to helping and working on all forms of art and to get that education going, so when those doors open, we can have a glorious opening and beautiful seasons of all kinds of art. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen to all of us and for your support of arts in Corpus. Thank you. Thanks, Bethany. Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Adam Rios. Normally I have to wait in the truck, so this is really exciting to me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm here to give you a little bit of my personal history and what my family was able to experience with the Ritz. Around 1965, my father had just finished, and he actually was awarded top recruit in his naval class. And when I was younger, I would ask him, what did that get you? You know, and he, the picture still hangs. Oh, it got me a one-way ticket to Vietnam. Before he went, he actually, he's told this story to my wife and I. He went and saw this movie called Cat Balloon. Lee Marvin ended up winning an Academy Award for that. And so he had a real tie to that theater, because by the time he got back from Vietnam, it was a different place. And so the Ritz just held rich history for him. And to this day, he still watches Westerns nonstop. But my first experience actually had to do with the arts, with the theater. I was in 3rd grade at Blanchmore Elementary, and my teacher at the time was part of the Corpus Christi Symphony. And we took a field trip, and we got to see the her string quartet actually perform, Miss Kilbourne. I still remember that. Fast forward to February 22nd, 1985, and I'm just this little skater kid who used to skate downtown to go see shows at the Ritz. And this little San Francisco band happened to be playing that night. And to say that changed the trajectory of my life would be an understatement. That band had ended up being Metallica. And yeah, so that was my history with that place, going to shows. And one of my classmates who I used to go to shows there with ended up playing there with one of his bands. And that was a really unique thing to see. Wow, this is happening. There's like 500 people here, and 500 people when you're 16 feels like 5,000. especially when it's music that not everybody is into. Well, the effect that had on him was he is now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He is a member of 9 Inch Nails, and he is from Corpus Christi, and his name is Danny Lohner. So what I'm here to talk about is not that the Ritz has this sort of revisionist history about it, that everybody has a story to tell from a long time ago. But those stories matter to us, and I want those stories to matter to my son Atticus, who, by his own right, is now discovering music and loves it. And as a high-functioning autistic child, he loves the theater. It does something different for him. And so I want him to experience that. Like the Ritz Theater, the beauty was, I also saw movies there. It was film, music, art, theater, just the arts all around him, and what that did to help shape me. You know, being kind of an outcast kid who now is the founder of his own company. Those experiences happen through the arts. Those happen because of the Ritz. And as beautiful as the other theaters are that my wife was talking about, none of them are centrally located downtown, and none of them are by the water. So I'm here to just advocate for the future of the Ritz.
Thank you, Mr. Rios. So let me ask a question. Is there anybody here that doesn't want to speak in favor of this project? I mean, y'all can continue, but.
Okay,
Okay.
and then we'll be.
And then we can cut, yeah. Because I can't say anything that anybody else has not already told you.
Your name, please. I'm
My
sorry.
name's Michelle Smith. I am with K-Space Contemporary, the director of K-Space Contemporary and the director of the Dia de los Muertos Festival. So as a director of an arts facility and a big art festival, I believe that the arts are absolutely essential to our civilization, to our culture, because, I mean, in all of its forms, visual art, music, dance, theater. For the past several years, we have partnered with the Ritz for our ofrenda display as part of the Dia de los Muertos Festival. And I can tell you that from experience, walking into that building and that trail of people that come through the building, and the most that we ever counted coming through during a festival was 17,000. And that's a lot of people on one night, and 90% of them are walking into that building with their mouth and eyes open, you know, in awe of the space. And I just so look forward to it coming back to its original glory. You know, the Downtown Management District has done a lot of work towards revitalizing downtown with Art Walk, and I feel like the Ritz is our next great creative space for Corpus Christi. So I'll end it there.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay.
I would like to introduce Susan Palmer, since we just hired her and brought her on.
Please.
She's going to be an intricate part of our capital campaign and moving forward with our project.
I'm worried about that buzzer now.
I'm shortening the time each time you.
I'll go quick. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing me up here. I'm Susan Palmer. I have been engaged now here for the second time. I started here, I think we said 2018. And at that time, the project was not as ready as it is right now to go. I was here a few times, and then things got quiet here again. And then COVID hit shortly, well, a few years after that. And now all of my clients are starting to wake up at different times, but the Ritz is waking up now, and the effort is different, and I can see the difference between what has happened then, what was happening then, and what's happening now. You have a professional leader on staff, and there's been some good, important board development that's been done. There's a greater commitment, I think, with the people in the community. But I just, you know, I prepared some of these documents for you. They asked me to come down because they felt like there was going to be a Q&A session, and that the tough questions needed to be answered by somebody who's done the work before. So that's why I'm here, and if anyone's changed their mind and they do have questions, I'm really happy to answer them for you. But there are a couple of things that have been said here that I thought that I might speak to in the next 1 minute and 50 seconds. You, Madam President, suggested that this cannot be a theater that's going to be high priced and not be accessible to everyone. And I'll tell you something that I do with every one of my clients when I'm helping to put these buildings back into service. And it's a simple thing, but it makes a huge difference. And it is free Saturday morning cartoons for kids. This
Great
is
idea.
so important because it's free, number one. The second thing is, it's helping us build our audiences for
Young.
tomorrow. When you go into any theater right now, and I am in them all the time, all over the country, you stand in the back of the house, and you see a bunch of white-haired, bald, I mean, like we all look. We need to have more young people in there, and there are two ways to do that. The one way is to get the kids in young and have them claim that space for their own. If they start at the age of 6, 7, and 8 to say, that's my spot, and I go there and I'm comfortable, it's mine, they'll stay there. The other thing is through alternate programming, and we do things like simulcasting the Super Bowl or simulcasting March Madness, doing things that will get people in who are not interested in watching a ballerina traipse across the stage, but want to watch a linebacker running at them in a screen.
Or X Games.
Exactly right. Yeah, you guys down here in the South, you go for college games more than the NFL, but still, all those things can be simulcast, and the high school cheerleaders will come in, and you can serve dogs and chili and all that kind of thing, and it creates an alternate audience that you may otherwise not be able to engage. So we do that through programming.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to entertain any questions.
I think, just so you know, we did have discussion with our attorney, and I think a lot of those questions got answered about that.
Okay.
And I want to compliment you personally, because I noticed that you put together a very nice budget perspective. Thank you. And that's great information for y'all to have going forward. So.
Well, we wanted you to see what our approach to that kind of work would be. The final budget that we will actually implement when the theater opens is going to be different than that. The theater programming won't start until about a year before it opens. We
Yeah, I
will
saw
start
that.
engaging contracts a year before it opens. But we wanted you to see the level of detail, and there's so much detail behind what you're seeing there that will go through the fiscal management of
Right.
the operation.
So do any of the board members have any questions? If I don't see anything else, I'm going to close. Oh, Mr. Wilson.
Well, I was, whenever you.
I need to close the public
Yeah,
hearing.
okay.
I was going to close the public hearing.
Am I excused?
I think so.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
So-
Do I need a motion to close the public hearing? Okay.
So Ms. Vatsmeyer Rios,
Yes.
nice to meet Mr. Rios, mentioned the Majestic. My wife and I happen to be season ticket holders at the Broadway musical series at the Majestic. In fact, we were there yesterday seeing the musical Six. If we could make the Ritz a smaller version of that, it'd be awesome. And so I would like to move that we approve the $230,000 grant as proposed.
Do I have a second? Ms. Summers? Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the $230,000 grant. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. It's unanimous. I want to mention to you all that, of course, you have a step in front of you, which is the city council. And then I think it's 60 days, right? Have you worked that issue out with them?
Right, 60 days from today, we
Okay.
can release the money, so we cannot release it until 60 days from today. And that is, of course, subject to city council approval, which I think is coming at the end of, set for at the end of October.
Yeah.
And we are able to start construction and being reimbursed from that, correct? We start today, well, tomorrow?
Yes, you can spend money, we just can't give you the money
Correct,
until the
okay.
60 days have passed.
I just wanted to clarify.
Well, I would wait till it goes to the city council. Yeah.
Sure, well, yes, for sure.
I think it's okay, but thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for coming out. Thanks to the DMD for all you're doing, and Monica for shepherding this many years. Christi? No, we don't want to take pictures. We don't want to be responsible. We're not trustworthy. Well, she said we couldn't take pictures. I mean, okay, going back to the agenda, do we want to wait for the financials and go back to public session real quickly? I mean, executive session?
However you'd like to do it.
Okay, let's do that because we have somebody else here waiting as well. So I'm going to ask that we go back as these people clear out into executive session on 2 items. Did I find my cheat sheet? And those are executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.07. And this is in relationship to.
It's 071 and 087, I'm sorry.
Okay, 071 and 087, thank you very
551
much.
and 087.
To deliberate two economic development projects.
It's items 3 and 4, correct.
Thank you. Or 4 and 5? Oh, 3 and 4, you're right, Patch is 5. I know you want to go home, I do too. I tried to.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Sorry. Okay, we're moving on to item 6, which is election of officers. We elect officers for 1 year. I'd entertain any motions for chair.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to nominate Leah Olivery for president for the following year.
Second.
Okay, are there anybody else? Feel free. Okay.
The pay's great.
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. I guess I'm elected. Okay, then the next one is for vice president.
Okay, any nominations for that?
I'll nominate Alan Wilson.
Second.
Anybody else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And then we have a secretary, treasurer, or treasurer, excuse me,
Secretary.
secretary. Are there nominations for secretary?
You're currently, right? I'd like to nominate Diana Summers for secretary.
Second. Anybody else? All those in favor of Ms. Summers as secretary for the coming year, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? No? You're it. And I would add, I have 1 more year on this board, so prepare yourself, people.
You want to go out with a bang?
This is it. Okay, thank you very much.
Ms.
We'll-
Oliveri, can you just state for the record that we're not doing the financial report? is
That's
right?
what I was getting ready to do. I think it's our will at this point to review the package that we have and is online, the financial report. I didn't hear any questions about it, so we will await the full financial report for the end of the year next year at the next meeting, or the last year at the next meeting. Thank you. And with that, I'll consider this meeting adjourned, and we have a
The
fairly...
director's report, was there one?
Oh, I'm sorry. He left, so I figured you. Thank you, Constance. Okay, so with that, if there's no further business, I'll consider this meeting adjourned, and we'll open the type A meeting as soon as we switch
Yes,
over.
yeah, we need to switch.
They have to change tapes or
Ready, ma'am, whenever you are.
Good afternoon. I'd like to open the Type A Corporation meeting and see if there is anyone who has submitted any public comment.
We need to do roll call, just real
Oh,
quick.
I'm sorry, do that again.
No, we just have to do it one more time, just for the record. President Leah Oliveri,
Present?
Vice President Alan Wilson.
Here.
Secretary Diana Summers.
Present.
Mark LaRue.
Present.
Jesus Jimenez is absent. Robert Tames. Eric Evans.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you very much. Now, Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment that is seated in the room? I don't see anyone here that has indicated that. Do we have any written request or
No,
comments?
ma'am, not for this meeting.
Thank you very much. I'd entertain a motion for approval of the Type A meeting from September 18th. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Regarding the financial report, why don't we hold that? Everybody had a chance to look at it. Does anybody have any questions? Memorize it, have it all memorized, and then we'll get a end-of-the-year financial report from Ms. Casas next month. Thank you. Okay, and you want to do, they want me to move election of officers up. I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and elect the same officers we elected in Type B.
Okay.
The same officers, right? You made a motion? So,
He's recommending, if I understand your motion, it would be Lee Oliver for president, it would be Alan Wilson for vice president, and Diane Summers for secretary.
yes, ma'am.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second that those individuals be elected. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. The motion carries. Otherwise, I think all we had is Mr. Edmonds. For those that don't know, this is Jed Edmonds.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome, new members.
Can you turn your mic on, Jeff? Yes, sir.
I've got to relearn how to do this. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Is that working? Okay. Again, Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering Services for you new members. And what we do in engineering services, we're kind of like a program management office for the city's capital improvement program. So the tradition with this board is I come and give you a quarterly update on where we are with all the projects that are being funded with Type A funds. So can I drive with this thing? Okay, I think these are in alphabetical order, but Art Center repairs and improvements, this is some mechanical, electrical, building envelope, general improvements that are being made to the Art Center. That's funded with Type A money, and that project is nearing completion, scheduled to be complete December 23. Art Museum building envelope improvements. That project is also scheduled to be complete December 23. Let's see, Water Garden, this is a big project, going very well. I think everybody's going to be very satisfied with the final outcome of this project. It's going to be, I want to say, better than new. So all the electrical, mechanical, underground piping is being replaced. It's going to look like it did. It's kind of almost like a historical restoration, but under the hood, everything is going to be brand new. We're going to have the added functionality of programmable colored LED lighting. So we're hoping that that's going to be used a lot more and provide a programmable space there for evening activities. Well,
Designed by a very, very famous landscape architect, Robert Zion.
and we're gonna preserve all of the historical look of the thing, but the underground piping was all the pieces, all electrical and mechanical equipment was in an underground vault that had flooded multiple times, and we've left the pumps in there, but we've taken all the electrical equipment and putting in an above-ground building and the treatment system, filtration system. So we've taken the most vulnerable stuff and it's being raised above ground. So I think it's going to be a complete reset on the life of this feature.
And is it?
Pardon me? Yes,
Don't
sir.
forget to turn your mics on, please. I'm sorry, board members.
And is it coming in under budget? Is that what I saw?
So the way we did it was a design-build project, so the amount that we took was a guaranteed maximum price. So there'd be a big, heavy lift to convince us that they're entitled to any additional compensation on that.
Thank you.
Next project is the Marina Piers project, A, B, C, D, and L. And I know you can't tell from that drawing, but that circled area is all the piers in that area. And this is replacing all the docks and all the utility infrastructure that serve the slips. And we just issued notice to proceed in August. I don't think there's anything actually going on at this point. It's all the paperwork. I'm not sure what their schedule is for mobilizing, but that's a project that's going to take a couple of years to complete. So April 25 is when they're estimating completion. No. They have, we just issued notice to proceed in mid to late August. So that project, we've just lit the fuse on that one. We had a heck of a time getting our Army Corps permit.
Turn your mic on, please.
Yeah, I have a question, and it's not really this project, but it's an upcoming project about the boaters facility. Are you going to talk
It's
about
in
that
there.
right next?
It's not next.
Okay, I'll wait.
This is another one replacing the People's Boardwalk. That one's been paused a little bit. There's some discussion with Harrison Landing about putting some scope in their area into this. The Marina's taking point on that, but we've got a bid set prior to those discussions almost complete. But based on that, we might have to add some more work in there before we put it out for bid. This is the boat haul out. We've just started on the design on that. Turner Ramirez Architects is doing the design. And that's going to replace the facility there in the photograph.
So that, I guess it's relevant to this. So we were just told that because of the new FEMA maps downtown, that it would require 4 feet additional height on a structure. What's that going to do to some of these projects, which are lower? Yeah.
Well, so what you might wind up with is it doesn't apply to, you're not going to raise this facility up 4 feet, but they're talking about some retail space in here, office space. That finished space would probably have to have a different floor elevation.
Heather, did you have something to say here? I'm just still stunned by the 4 feet in downtown. Is
Yes,
that?
I've seen the preliminary designs. Right now, what it is that this will have an area underneath that will be more of a workshop area that will not have solid walls. They're gonna go in with like a grid walling so that it can be breakaway. The top part of the building, it'll be 2 stories. So you'll have the bottom and then you'll have another one on top, which will then put it up above that base flood elevation. It will have, what they're proposing is a ramp that'll come from the seawall level in, and be able to connect it. Basically, it's gonna be, instead of it being down like it is right now, it's gonna be more up on the level of the seawall.
Yeah. I guess I was asking Jeff, though, about the base flood elevation map specifically. So if downtown is 4 feet, I don't know if that's right or not, sounds high. What does that make the
It's
marina?
more like 7 feet
So
mean sea level.
would everything below the flood level be designed to, I mean, if we had a flooding event, it would be designed to flood?
Yes.
With materials
Yes.
for those types of events?
Yes, exactly.
Now, of course, this is outside the seawall. So,
Yeah, it's on the back, yeah.
so you're contending with the bay
Right,
base flood elevation. There's a lower level
exactly.
inside the seawall. So there's been some history on that, and it has kind of involved the type A board. Do you want some of that?
Well,
Reader's
they're going to
Digest
kill
version.
me if I ask for it, so maybe you can remind.
Well, I'll try and give you the Reader's Digest version. So there's been a lengthy process that started almost 20 years ago. And it happened after Hurricane Katrina. That kind of triggered it. The federal government knew for a long time that these flood insurance rate maps were kind of fiction. You know, if you had a levee, you just say, oh, this area is protected by a levee. And they say, oh, okay, no flood elevation, no base flood elevation, it's protected. But the base flood elevation could have been 10 feet above the top of the levee, and they're saying the levee protected against it. So after Hurricane Katrina, they kind of took away that liar loan option, okay? Now, the flood maps that were current up until about, I want to say, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
November is what we were told, yeah.
Oh, when they're going active, okay, yeah, well, we saw them.
Right, a long time, yeah.
But the old maps were done like mid-'80s, and it assumed that the system was basically protecting against a 100-year flood event. There was a lot of back and forth with FEMA. We thought there were going to have to be some significant structural improvements completed to get a map that we could live with. I think FEMA finally blinked, and they said, hey, would you go with 7? And frankly, I was very pleased with that. I mean, there's a lot of people like, oh my God, this is onerous. But the first position to communities that had these flood protection systems was unless you could get that certified, the base flood elevation on the inside was going to be equal to the base flood elevation on the outside. Now, Congress, they appealed to Congress. Congress pushed back and said, you've got to model this the way it would actually perform. And FEMA's first response was, well, this is going to be about science. We're going to do it based on, I think they realized that, you know, that would be a long road to go down, and they would have to spend a lot of money. We would spend a lot of money contesting their science. They came up with BFE of 7, and we said, you know what, we're not going to really protest that.
Okay, sorry.
Now, you could challenge them, but of course, then they're going to challenge you about the soundness of Salt Flats Levee, the flood wall at the Science Museum, the freeboard that you've got at certain places. You know, it's. You took the words right out of my mouth, sir.
So the project's just, I mean, it's at 30% design. Ramirez was the project, or the designer on the hotel that we discussed. So, I mean, he would have that knowledge, taking that into consideration with this, correct? So I think it boils down to, and it sounds like it is, the base level is designed for flooding.
Yes.
And then the retail will be above whatever, or the.
Office space.
7 feet, yeah.
I mean, obviously, this kind of facility lends itself to having that open underneath that a hotel doesn't.
House on stilts.
Right.
Just like in Flower Bluff.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the underneath will not have it'll have solid exterior walls, but not internal solid walls, so. Using
Okay.
mesh type.
Move along.
Yeah, and that same thing, we're going to have some challenges with some of the other.
That's where I was heading, yeah. And the new construction downtown is going to be a challenge.
Well, it's going to be more of a challenge outside the flood wall. Inside, it is a little bit of a challenge. I think it's more manageable than some people might think. I mean, there are things you can do. You can raise up electrical, mechanical things. You know, you might, if you were doing a big building, a lot of times you put the parking down low, you have occupied dwellings up above that. But we're talking, when I say BFE of 7 feet, that's not 7 feet above ground, that's 7 feet mean sea level. So, you know, your ground elevation down there is 4 or 5 plus feet. So it might be that you only have to go up a couple of feet.
Yeah, that's why I'm questioning the 4 feet. Not an engineer.
Yeah, this is the boaters facility. I think, is this the one you were first asking about, or?
Yeah, that was another example. But again, you can do underneath it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the.
And I think I saw that thing where it might ramp up, yeah.
Exactly, it's a similar design, is that there would be a storage area underneath that wouldn't be occupied, and then the offices and the facilities would be on the second level.
Enter the Luxor Temple, yeah.
Okay, this is a project that was added due to some leaking pipe that we had that was causing some damage in the building. We've engaged Bath Engineering to design that, and the latest I've got on this is we actually might have to also add in a boiler that seems to be also leaking there. This is we've had problems with moisture in there. The other project addressed the building envelope issues, and
This was kind of an emergency.
correct.
It was urgent.
Yeah, so we're trying to fast
Some
track.
definition of urgent, yeah.
Well,
Okay, move along, before I say
somebody
something.
thought it was emergency. And I think that's the last, oh no, sorry. Flood wall upgrades. This is a project that's been in the plan for a while and been reconceived multiple times, but we do have some structural needs there that flood wall in front of the Army Corps is in bad shape, and the flood wall, it ties in with flood wall behind the Science Museum that we think is structurally inadequate. This project is to address that. And this is a project that we actually thought FEMA was going to compel us to do before we could get a map that was below that 13-foot BFE that they were talking about.
But it is a vulnerability that we need to fix.
It is a vulnerability that we need to address, so that's in the capital plan. We've selected Jacobs Engineering to design that, and we're kind of in the scoping and negotiation phase with them.
Okay.
This is kind of a recurring effort to make investments in the condition of the seawall. The last project was completed about 2 years ago, so we're thinking we're going to do a little bit more data collection on it. You know, the last time was more visual inspection, addressing spalls and cracks and joint problems and things like that. This time we're thinking ground penetrating radar and see if there's anything that is not obvious to the eye that needs to be addressed.
The seawall, how does that affect new construction in downtown? I mean, does that mitigate some of those new FEMA risks? Does it lower the elevation that they have to construct at?
Yeah, it absolutely does. So a little bit of the history on this. The downtown was pretty much wiped out in the 1916 hurricane, 1919 hurricane, and that was a big part of the motivation to build the seawall. Of course, the seawall moved the shoreline used to be at Water Street, so everything east of Water Street was created out of reclaimed land, and they set the elevation of the seawall at the recorded elevation of the 1919 hurricane. So it was intended to protect against a similar type event. So if you didn't have the seawall, the BFE would basically be what it is in the bay, which is around a 13-foot elevation.
Okay.
So basically, you'd be building on the hill, not down there.
Right now, what the FEMA position, when they first started this effort to modernize the maps after Hurricane Katrina, they would have said, if you can't get this certified, the system flood protection certified, that it's structurally adequate, geotechnically adequate, your interior drainage systems are adequate, et cetera, and get some engineer to seal that all of this is up to spec and convince them that he did his homework correctly, they would have said, if you can't get that, then the BFE on the outside is the BFE on the inside. They're just going to neglect it. Fortunately, the policy evolved from that point. But yes, it's absolutely protecting us.
Okay, So in order, I think we don't want to see people not want to invest in downtown because of the expense. And so down the road, I mean, is it something to look at raising the seawall, or is it kind of as high as we can build it?
Getting that next increment of protection is going to be a pretty heavy lift.
Okay.
But I'll say one thing, other communities like in the Netherlands and even Italy have been doing some things on different types of protection system, including inflatables, that might, who knows where that technology will go in the future without having to build concrete barriers, that you could shore up, I think.
It's possible. It's possible, but.
He's an engineer, he likes to build big.
Well, and you get some trade-offs that I know that the city was looking at that several years ago. I want to say 10 years ago or so. They didn't know what the maps were going to come in. And what happened, the Army Corps of Engineers did the surge modeling. And after Hurricane Ike, it blew the models out of the water. So the surge greatly exceeded what the models predicted. So they went back and tweaked the models and used Hurricane Ike to calibrate it. During that period of time, we thought that they're going to come back with a storm surge that's way north of what they had previously, but they didn't. It didn't really affect us as bad as it did some of the other.
Because of the fetch across the bay?
I think it might have been that, and features about the bottom geometry. I'm not sure what it was, but they actually, it didn't change that much after that. So, but during that period of time, there was a lot of discussion about, okay, what would we do to try and protect the downtown if you wind up with a much higher base flood elevation out in the bay? And, you start doing things that compromise the view, for example. So would that be acceptable to raise the wall to where you don't really see the water?
So two other important parts that I want to just mention is the pump system, which we did redo all the pumps, and I assume those are being annually inspected and maintained.
I'm with you. I assume that too. It's not in our department, but
Right,
that would be
but
the
there is
Public
a
Works
big,
Department that's
there is a big
responsible for
pump system that.
it. There's 2 big pump
pumps,
stations.
yeah, down there. And then the second thing is, I know this is a favorite one of Robert's, the breakwater around the marina. We still have yet to do that update assessment. There we go. I haven't seen this presentation.
So that's the project
Yeah.
you're mentioning. So the breakwater was built in, I want to say 28. Am I right on that?
I don't know. That sounds right. Close enough.
It's somewhere like that. It's when they first started working in the Inner Harbor, and the Army Corps of Engineers wanted them to build this. And so it's been there longer than the seawall. The seawall was completed in 1941. And it hasn't had much done to it since then. So we did this little first phase project, and I got to say, a big part of the justification on that, and it actually came from Parks and Rec. We had that concrete, we called it a concrete core wall that people would walk out on and go fish off of this thing, and it was broken up, it was in real bad shape. And so part of this was to restore that, and even though we have signs out there to kind of discourage you doing this, we don't have people out there policing that. So it's one of those things, we didn't want to make this thing be ADA compliant, all that sort of thing, but we wanted it to, one, be not unsafe, and we thought, at the same time, we might as well raise it up. So it also raised the elevation a foot on that, but we didn't really do a study of, hey, what's exactly the right elevation?
Subsiding or, yeah.
But there's been, between subsidence and erosion and sea level rise, you can look at old photographs, you can tell that the breakwater was significantly higher relative to the water in the past. So what we're thinking is we need to get a plan together. We've lost a lot of freeboard over there. What's the right number and how do we program for that?
So we're moving that project along?
That project is moving. We've made a selection on that. HDR is going to be the engineer, and this is more of a planning study and recommend, okay, what is the right
We don't have a
level?
dollar cost on what might be needed as a result of that study.
We do not have a dollar cost estimate on that. That'll be an output from this and maybe phasing plan. It is certainly not going to be cheap, but we've got to decide what exactly we want it to achieve. I had, for example, somebody looked at what we're investing in the marina and said, oh, we've got to go protect that against a 100-year storm event. I'm like, well, okay, you're going to need something like the seawall if that's what.
But it is the first line of defense to some extent.
It is a first line of defense. The main function, I would say, is providing wave sheltering for the marina. And, if you've got a significant sea level increase at the same time, you start losing that. So it's striking a balance. But a significant storm event, I think that's going to be, you're going to have a lower criteria than you've got for protection of downtown. Unfortunately, I don't want to say that, you don't want to protect the marina, but it's going to be very hard to protect the marina and not compromise some of the function and the aesthetics and all of that. So it's going to be protected to a lower level than downtown. But part of it is going to be having those conversations with them and strike the appropriate balance between cost and benefit.
Okay, anything else?
I think this might be the last one. And this one, we're not too sure what we're going to do on that. They pushed the funding out, but at one point, there was some discussion about the port was going to put this observation deck out there back behind the Science Museum. And there had been a project in the past that looked at making that whole thing kind of a promenade in front of the Corps of Engineers. This was looking at an alternate way to provide pedestrian connectivity from the observation deck that the port was wanting to put in, and some park-like features over there in under the old bridge, and allow connectivity over the water garden. But they thought maybe you could reuse that walkway back behind the Science Museum. I think some other people are saying, yeah, you got some real condition issues with that would need to be addressed. But anyway, that's where that project is. Look at a way to enhance the connectivity there for pedestrians.
Okay.
That's my final slide.
Jeff, you may have nothing to do with it. The Spoil Island,
Turn your mic on, please.
I don't really want anybody to hear what I'm going to say. The Spoil Island, they're pretty close to the bridge. What happens to that?
The Spoil Island.
In there,
It's a dredge material placement at
Okay.
DNPA, and they use it when they maintenance dredge the channel.
You mean the one that used to be kind of off from the ABC?
yeah,
Yeah,
It's still
it's been
there.
kind of intermittent. It used to be there, more
Bigger.
there.
It's not contained, so it just slips away over
Erodes.
time. It goes back into the channel, you just drag it.
drag it back out.
Jeff, before your time, that was built up to protect the dock.
Okay. Yeah, I remember there was a project many years ago, this is before I joined the city, didn't they? It had a name. Was it called Sunset Island or something? Sunfish, that was it. Sunfish Island. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there was some thought, I know, at one time in the past, before I joined the city, about trying to restore that, but I haven't seen anything recently about it. Yeah, that's true. If you don't, it's just subject to erosion.
So, only other thing I'd mention, did the new board members get a copy of the budget for
Turn your mic on, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Did y'all get a copy of the budget and the CIP? So some of the things he's going through, plus others, are in that capital improvement program for the future in A and B. So, that's all? Are there any questions of Mr. Edmonds? Do we have a report?
Just one comment. I'd like to welcome our new board members, Eric and Mark. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, Constance Sanchez, and I look forward to working with y'all.
Thank you, Constance. Business? If there is none, then let's consider this meeting adjourned. It was a bit of a marathon, wasn't it?